Hello, everybody. I feel like I'm having a roundup today. Hello, everybody. Welcome. This is Elaine Bartlett, your somewhat reluctant mystic, the one who is, just like you, a wanderer and a wanderer. And speaking of wandering, have you not noticed you or those you love or those you don't love so much seem to be wandering around kind of like chickens with their heads cut off? And you're wandering and then wonder, where are you? Who am I? Where am I going? What day is it? And Alfie, what is it all about? So today, together, because this is a show for you, let's figure out, who are we? Who is the Alfie in us? And where are we going? And what the heck is up? What's happening? I do so sincerely invite you to phone in today. 321-806-3159. 321-806-3159. And if you're too shy, don't hesitate to send me an email. And the email would go to purpleportal777@gmail.com. So once again, it's the color purple, portal, and then the numbers 777@gmail.com. There is a lot happening today. Holy Mackinac. I don't know if you're feeling it or whether you've become just too anesthetized or you've been partying too much and there's one too many martini or whatever else you're indulging in, so you've become oblivious to it all. But there is a magnificent full moon, and it's been evident, at least in South Florida, as it was approaching even last night. But you could look up and see just the slightest sliver still missing. Tonight, though, it is a full moon. So who is this full moon affecting full on? And this is why some of you have been ordering from me your birth charts, even just a printout of it, so you could see what I'm referring to and know a little bit more about yourself. You are the most important person in your universe. It would be awfully lovely if you accepted that, appreciated it, and knew more about the you that you are. So this particular full moon, it's in the sign of Gemini. And the full moon always means it's opposite the sun sign of which we're in. So we're under the sign of Sagittarius. So the full moon's going to be opposite that in Gemini. So who is this going to be affecting full on, headlights blaring? Sagittarius is in Gemini. And then there are two signs that form squares to both of those, to both Gemini and the Sag energy. And those two signs would be Pisces and Virgo. So they also are caught in the headlights of this full moon. Now, because it's in Gemini, wisdom would simply say, well, what does Gemini mean? What's that all about? Well, Gemini has to do with everyday thinking. You're what they call just consciousness, normal consciousness, not higher consciousness, not total awareness into the presence, just hello, your alertness kind of thing. Your ability to communicate, your ability to write a short story or write a letter. Probably not many people on the planet write letters anymore. I still do. I love to get a letter and I love to send a letter. But that's because I'm Pisces and it squares all this stuff. So at this cycle, I actually send out many, many letters, which I've been doing now for several days under the frequency of this full moon. And the letters that I send out at this time are cleverly disguised as messages from the angel kingdom. And it's a little stressful because the moon, as it's gaining fullness, there's too much water, and the water is stress. So you have now the opportunity to communicate or miscommunicate. You have the opportunity for clear thinking, or to actually imagine you're a total fuzzball, and it can go back and forth. 1 minute you can have great clarity, and the next minute you are totally fuzzed out. I'd rather think of you fuzzed out than buzzed out, but be that as it may, do your thing. And also the Gemini energy, it has to do with siblings. So you may hear from siblings that you haven't heard from since the last holiday season. It's a very easy time to quarrel with siblings right now. It's a very easy time to, as you're even using your computer, to write something and see that you spelled the word THE as HTE. And you're like, how could that possibly happen? Well, it's some of this great, strong, powerful energy. On the very, very wonderful side of the Gemini-Sag energy, it's so expansive that that book you've been wanting to write, you could now sit down and write it and actually knock it out in a very short amount of time. You could get flashes of brilliance. Now, the Gemini energy doesn't hold that flash too long because Gemini is a changeable sign. So in its fluidness, you get this flash and you think, aha, I finally got it. I will encourage you to write it down very quickly before you lose it again. So it's an interesting time, and that full moon on the East Coast actually hits about 6:30 this evening. So take advantage of the fullness of it, but be careful how you use your energies. And for some of you, you may not feel at this time that it's too bad because you may have gotten it yesterday. That's when it hit me. A full moon is like an aperture on a camera. It can hit you anywhere from 24 to 48 hours prior to the actual moon. So yesterday, I was like a cat on a hot tin roof. I finally had to stop what I was doing, go home, push a reset button, and start again. So that's the energy. And as a matter of fact, I didn't quite understand yesterday what's wrong. What was wrong with me? Because I was out of sorts and edgy, and it's not particularly my disposition. So that's one of the reasons why I went home. I thought, I have to see, is this something cosmic? Is it me? And I was so relieved to understand that yesterday, for myself, it was sort of a double whammy. It was bad for the Chinese animal sign that I am. So it was bad for what you call a fire dog. And then I realized it was the full moon. I had completely lost track of it. I mean, some days I keep, monitoring things if it means something to me. But yesterday, just get on with life. So interesting time to focus, to settle down, to realize, okay, we've got this full moon cooking. The other thing that's happened, and happened today, which I thought, I love this when it coincides. Today it's in a way, it's kind of its own galactic portal, but this is information on the galactic spectrum. Now, I will tell you, I have one listener out there, and she actually phoned in recently. I didn't realize she is aware of the ramifications of the galactic energy. I was like a kid in a candy shop, like, somebody knows what the heck I'm talking about when I'm talking that cosmic, that kind of out there. Because if it's galactic, you got to figure it's out there. And then I come back in with, but wait a minute, it's not out there. We're part of this galactic energy. How can I use it? So what happened today is we stepped into, now this is galactically, this is not even the lunar calendar, this is the galactic calendar. We stepped into something called the rhythmic moon of equality. So we actually stepped into, galactically again, a new lunar cycle. So what is this all about? Well, as soon as you hear the word equality and equanimity and balance, obviously the cosmic opportunity for the next 4 weeks is to embrace your own sense of balance. I'll give you a big hint on that. The more organized you are, the better your sense of balance and equality. It's the opportune time to look and see, where are you still judging yourself as not equal or others as not equal? And I don't mean on the things like, I look at like my grandchildren's schooling. Well, one little child is going to be more bright than the other little child. That's not judging against equality. That's just a matter of life itself. Some are gifted in this area, some are gifted in that. But the equality is, it involves forgiveness. To really get back to your point of balance again, it involves you dropping away any sense of judgment that they're better than or worse than, not because they're a better artist or pianist or student or anything else you could conjure up. But we carry these subtle distinctions and these subtle inequalities, and it throws you out of balance, quite frankly. So this is a 4-week window galactically to look at your whole sense of rhythm. There's a wonderful quote in some of the galactic information about this particular month. When you give your light to the light of the world, you make a connection of light to light that helps the world in its process of dynamic change. And this dear world is going through such a change. We mere mortals grumble and moan and groan because many of us have been so aware of this change for so long, and some have just been bowled over completely by it. But when you really stop and think of it, the world, Mama Earth, she is going through her own process of dynamic change. Think about what this dear, beautiful feminine energy has had to learn to change according to. She's had to learn to change with the fact that streets are paved and they can't breathe anymore. She's had to deal with skyscrapers and the fact that people's feet can't touch the earth anymore. She's had to learn to deal with underground drilling. She's had to see her waters polluted and her family in the waters of fish and whatever else lives in there. I suspect there are some mermaids. But she's had to learn to see that family desecrated and destroyed. She's had to learn to deal with fracking and impurities of every kind being pumped into the air, into the water. So she's really had to step up to the plate regarding change. So I have great empathy for that whole spectrum of energy. And we really have to be careful, because without the feminine energy, you're doomed. I got to tell you. Because the feminine ray, the whole feminine ray, is where the creative spark is nurtured. So we're doing a great misdeed by not really honoring this rhythm, this balance that the Mother Earth holds for us. It's a frequency she holds. So perhaps some of you will think more clearly about that in these 4 weeks while you're busy doing Hanukkah shopping and Christmas shopping and running around and preparing meals and losing your balance and losing your cool. I can only encourage you to stay present and